Welcome to the IT Career Energizer podcast. For anyone who wants to build and grow a career in IT, develop and improve your strengths and skills, be inspired and motivated by the successes of others, manage your career progression, and achieve your IT career goals. And now, your host, Phil Burgess.
Welcome to episode 344 of the IT Career Energizer podcast. My guest on today's show has been fascinated by technology from an early age, from taking apart his Tamagotchi to creating a mobile game that went viral. He is the co-founder and CTO of Appsmith, an open source project built by engineers for engineers. It is now used by more than 1,000 teams, employs people in 8 countries, and has raised over $10 million in capital. So it's my pleasure to welcome to the podcast, Arpit Mohan.
Hey, Phil. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Oh, it's my pleasure to have everybody on the podcast, to be honest. But so first of all, Arpit, can you maybe tell us a little bit about the background to Appsmith and why you founded the company?
Yeah, absolutely. So Appsmith is an open source project that's built by engineers for engineers. And it's basically what it falls into the category of what is called the low code application builder platform, where you can basically drag and drop UI elements onto the screen, connect them to any API, any database that you have, private or public, and publish a web app really, really quickly. So it's super handy when you want to build, a lot of internal tools, any admin panels, and dashboards for your team or within your company. So it's super handy in those scenarios. Yeah, so that's the whole gist of Appsmith. And the reason that we kind of started with with an open source project like this is because over the past decade or so, I've dabbled in startups a lot. I've co-founded multiple startups, worked in early stage companies as well, and through all these growing product teams, uh, I've ended up building a lot of admin panels and dashboards in my time. And at one point, I just got fed up, and we said, there has to be a better way than doing this from scratch each and every time, and thus was born Appsmith.
Right. Okay, good. All right. So obviously prior to Appsmith, presumably you did work in the technology and IT field. I know you mentioned you were involved in startups. So what is your background really? Where did you sort of get an interest in technology?
Yeah. So I've been in software or tech for from the beginning of my career, which is like 13 years ago. So I've always been bedazzled by the ability to create. So
Yeah.
while initially I was dabbling in hardware and robotics, somewhere down the line I decided, hey, software is probably the way to go, and I actually stopped doing hardware as much and put my heart and soul into software. Uh, so my journey has largely been in and around software, and
Yeah.
as a kid, right from being a child, uh, I've always been fascinated by with technology, and I would take apart just about every device in the house. I've taken apart VCRs, and at those times there were CRT monitors, Tamagotchis, people's friends' computers, which they weren't too happy about because while I knew how to disassemble stuff, I hadn't learned the skill to assemble it back again. So we've had to
Yes.
buy multiple VCR recorders. My dad had to buy multiple VCR recorders in his day, and yeah, so that's when I've always been fascinated by the green chip that was almost always inside all of these inside of all of these devices, and that was the microcontroller, the board itself. And I remember I was maybe 8 or 10 years old, and I remember being super fascinated by the fact that this little green chip controls everything that I see or do on my computer or on my VCR. I can watch movies, I can play Road Rash, which was a big game back in the day. And it was all just powered by this green chip. And since then, I've always been fascinated with the idea of building on top of what the green chip could power.
Good. Okay, right. Fine. All right. So, Arpit, can you share with us a career tip, one that the audience may not be aware of and perhaps should be?
Yeah. So a lot of us who get started with with software, with tech, we focus a lot. Software engineers or IT engineers end up focusing a lot on the code itself. What does the code look like, or what does the tool look like? Uh, while I think as engineers, we should focus a lot more and invest in soft skills, or in the teams and the peoples around us, and lesser on the code or the architecture itself. Because what tends to happen after a period of time is, a lot of people end up being senior engineers but junior humans, while it should be the other way around. And if you look at any other great artist, IT or software for that matter, it's all about taking pride in the craftsmanship, in the craft that you are investing your time and energy in. And if you look at all the great artists, uh, they take pride in the tools that they use, the paintbrush that they have or the guitar that they have. But at the end of the day, they all know that it's a tool. That's not what makes the musician a musician or the artist an artist. And they don't credit the paintbrush or the guitar for their success. Um, and similarly, folks in IT uh, should focus a lot more on the teams and communicating with them and being able to work with people around you, because that is what will get you as an IT engineer ahead in life, is when you can build trust with the team.
Yeah, that's very good. In terms of what you do you do anything specifically to help you to do this?
Yeah, so this realization has come a little later in my life, in my career, and since over the past, I think 4 or 5 years, I've tried to get a lot better at how I communicate. I've been reading a lot on how managers manage teams, how leaders lead teams. At one point, I have also gone and literally I think I would have seen maybe 60% or 70% of all of Barack Obama's speeches as well, just to learn from, like, who's the greatest orator or who's the greatest communicator out there. And I was like, oh, it's Obama, it's the president of the United States. So let's learn what we can from him. And so it's been a lot of just focusing on how I'm expressing, especially at different points when there are different emotions that are running through you. It might be a crisis mode. It might be you might be in peacetime. You're just trying to find alignment with different stakeholders. So different moments call for maybe slightly different modes of communication, but just being very conscious about how and what you are saying uh, is that's something I've been working on quite extensively over the last few years.
Right. Okay. Fine. All right. So, Arpit, can you share with us your worst IT career moment and what you learned from that experience?
Okay, worst moment. I think this would be very common to most folks in IT. Is I ran a delete query on a production database, and I put the semicolon before the where clause. So I just said delete from DB, delete from table, the orders table, unfortunately, and I didn't have a where clause. So this ended up wiping all the orders that we had in our system for the past, I think, 6 months or so. Uh, and to top it all, I was the CTO, I was the founder, and I ran this query. So it was not a pretty morning, and the moment I pressed enter, you kind of feel that pit in your stomach when you see the delete query succeed, and you see 100,000 rows get deleted. It's that pit in the stomach sort of sank in, like, nearly, I think, 5 seconds later. I realized what had happened. So yeah, and since this was early in my career, and this was the first startup that we were doing, I did not understand the importance of backups. So we didn't have any backups. We didn't have any secondary controls to prevent such incidents. And but fortunately, our last backup was from 7 or 10 days ago, when we were doing some migration and we had taken a DB backup. So thankfully, we kind of restored up to 7 to 10 days ago. And then I had to write a very embarrassing email to all our vendors, to all our customers, asking them to tell us what they had ordered from us so that I could manually go and insert it back into the database. So I basically recreated a lot of the database by asking our customers, hey, you ordered something from us. Can you please tell us what you ordered? Um, so embarrassing moment.
Indeed. I mean, it's not unusual. That's been that sort of story has come up a number of times on various episodes of the podcast. But what did you learn? What do you do differently now?
Okay, so the few things that we do differently now is if there is a database or file system for that matter, the first thing that happens that I do is set up a backup policy and a retention policy. So that's the first thing that I do now. The second is testing the restore, because there has been another moment where we were taking backups, but we realized that the format was corrupted and we couldn't restore. So the other thing that I do is I insert some dummy data, wait for a day, ensure that the backup policy is working, restore it just to see if it works, and then push it to production. So then push that DB instance to production. So that's the first thing that I do. The other is access control to databases directly is something that I've learned to control a lot. So um, within our company, it's a little bit like protecting your family jewels, where limited people have direct access to the database, and any and all information flowing through the database is through APIs, through a secondary layer, which has these controls inbuilt. So no direct access to databases, especially for delete, like especially for that one command.
Yes. Indeed. Yeah. Fine. Okay. Well, let's try to move to something maybe more positive. So, can you tell us about your career highlight?
Yeah. So prior to starting Appsmith, we were actually running a mobile gaming company, a mobile game, and through a stroke of absolute, I think, good fortune, we ended up going viral, and our user base started to scale very, very rapidly. So we grew to about 1 million downloads on the Google Play Store. We had 120,000 daily active users, and all of this happened within a span of, I think, 3 or 4 months. Um, so at that point, our engineering team comprised a sum total of 4 people. There were two server-side engineers and two mobile engineers. Uh, so just keeping the lights on at that point was really, really hard. It was a period of, there was intense, learning and growth, uh, just to understand how to keep up with the pace. And because it was a mobile game, our peak periods used to happen in over the weekends. So there were no weekends off as well. So for 6 months or so, I think the entire team barely took any weekends, which is a terrible way to run a team. I do not recommend it to anybody. But at that point, that's what we did. And yeah, and while we were kind of battling, bots on the platform, trying to scale our servers to handle the traffic that was coming in, we also had to end up building. We had to end up building admin panels and dashboards for our support team, because we were getting about 3,000 emails a day, and while this represented only 3% of our user base, just being able to answer or respond to 3,000 emails each and every single day was really, really hard. And that, by the way, was the genesis of Appsmith today. Yeah, so that's a career highlight, is being able to learn and scale to 120,000 concurrent users. with 4 engineers.
Yeah, very impressive. That's very good. Yeah. Okay. So, Arpit, what excites you about the future of the IT and tech industry and careers in this field in particular?
So I'm going to quote Mark Anderson, who said this, I think, 10 or 11 years ago. He has this very famous quote where he says, "Software is eating the world." So I'm very, very optimistic about a career in IT because uh, if you look at software or IT, the potential to discover or scale solutions that software has, a lot of physical brick and mortar or manufacturing companies uh, just cannot do. You just cannot do what Google does at the scale at which it does if you were a brick and mortar store. And and what all these brick and mortar stores are also doing, or more traditional companies are doing, is they're leveraging IT and software as their superpower. That is why, if you look at Tesla, which is, I think, the most modern car company out there, for all practical purposes, I would actually call it a software company that just happens to be building cars. I think Elon Musk has taken a computer, put 4 wheels on it, and said, "Hey, this is a car." And and a decade ago, if you look at the top companies in Nasdaq as well, earlier they used to be oil companies, banking firms, etc. Today they are almost all software companies. So that's why I think a career in IT is. I'm very, very optimistic about a career in IT because I think it's that's where the future is.
Good. Yeah, glad to hear that. Good. Excellent. Okay. So we're going to go into the reveal round now. We're going to find out a little bit more about you and the way you think. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what first attracted you to a career in IT?
The ability to create. I'm a builder by heart, so just the ability to create is what attracted me here.
Good. Okay. And what is the best career advice you've ever received?
Make your manager look good. This doesn't mean that you let your manager take credit for your work or let them write a slipshod over you, but it means that uh, anybody that you are reporting to, ensure that they are proud when they talk about you, and this is what gets you promoted. So if you make your manager look good, trust me, you'll get promoted.
Yes. And what is the worst career advice you've received?
Focusing on there was one gentleman who told me very early that to focus on the money and the compensation, and you just take the job that pays you the most. I think that's not so great advice. So while money is important, and that's obviously like important to our lives, but that's not the only proxy to a good career, because more money in a team might just mean that you're compromising on a lot of other things. You may be compromising on time with family or your mental health, etc. So take all of those things into account. So don't just focus on the highest paying job that you're getting at any given point of time.
If you were to begin your career again in today's world, what would you do?
I focus a lot more on trying to understand the internals of a system. It took me a while to not be afraid about reading library code or code written by other people. So I think that stunted my learning quite a bit in the initial few years of my career. So if I was to do it all over again, I would get rid of the fear of reading or trying to look underneath the hood and reading other people's code.
Yep. And what career objectives are you currently focusing on?
Uh, I think the biggest ones are, trying to be a better leader and communicating more effectively with the entire team. Communicating more consistently and effectively with the entire team.
Yes. And what's the number one non technical skill that has helped you in your career so far?
The ability to write long form written formats like a memo. So while a lot of people can communicate well over a Slack message itself, but being able to crystallize my thoughts in a long form memo, which has a structure to it, that I think has been like very critical. I feel it has been critical to my ability to kind of succeed or move forward.
And what do you do to keep your own career energized?
Uh, read, read, read. Read code, read books, read blogs, just read.
And what do you do in your spare time away from technology?
I try to run as much as I possibly can. So I try to do about 5K a couple of times a week. And apart from that, the last couple of years, been spending a lot of time with my family. Realized the importance of family. So just been spending a lot of time with them.
Okay. And Arpit, can you share with us a parting piece of career advice?
I'm going to circle back to the read thing because I think it's so important that I would just circle back and say, and I encourage folks to read because the more you read, the better you write. So, and this applies to everything across the board. Reading code, reading Bezos's memos or Bill Gates memos or blogs, etc. Because the more you kind of read what other people or the top performers in your field are doing, your brain automatically starts to understand what good, quote unquote, good means. And automatically, when you're trying to write the next time, that's what your brain will start producing. So the more you kind of read, let's say, Obama speeches, you'll start writing or talking like him. And that's one. And the other is reading is the quickest way to absorb information. You can read 10 times or 20 times faster than you can listen to a podcast, or even if you double the speed on the podcast, your just reading speeds are incredibly incredibly higher. So you'll just be able to absorb a lot more information in a much smaller span of time.
Good. All right. Arpit, how can we find out more about you and connect with you?
uh, So I'm available on Twitter. My handle is Mohan Arpit. You can always email me at arpit@appsmith.com. And otherwise, you can always check out appsmith.com, which is our open source project itself. Uh, and there's a lot more information on that website uh, about the founders, about us itself. So yeah, I'm mostly available on Twitter and email.
Great. Arpit, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. It's been great chatting with you.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Phil. Thank you so much.
Hi, Phil here again. Well, I hope you enjoyed my conversation with today's guest. You can find full show notes on the website at itcareerenergizer.com/e and the number of the episode you've been listening to. If you haven't already subscribed to the show, please make sure that you do so that you get episodes automatically downloaded to your device every Monday. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
Thanks for listening to the IT Career Energizer podcast. To find out more about building a successful career in IT, visit itcareerenergizer.com.